Hey everyone, welcome to Scotch AI, episode 3, where we're looking at the topic tapping into the global network in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and working internationally in data science. My guests are Dr. Chelsea Wise. Chelsea is an ex-colleague of mine from Quantium, going back quite a few years. She's worked in a variety of roles, both in Australia and globally, and is currently working with an Aussie machine learning startup called Hyperana, which we'll introduce shortly, where she was head of deployed data science, but has kind of shapeshifted into marketing director. Among her other achievements, Chelsea was recognized as one of the top 5 lecturers in the UTS Business School 3 years in a row. And there's also a Microsoft connection now. I'm hoping that Miri Rodriguez can join us. I got a feeling it might be a public holiday in the US, and so she may have been caught up, but we'll see. So Miri is head of global internships at Microsoft. If she can join us later, I'll introduce her. But Chelsea has a Microsoft connection as well. She created the Protégé program for Microsoft in Australia, which was a nationwide marketing competition for university students to address marketing problems for Microsoft. So we might even drill into that a little bit. Welcome, Chelsea.
Thanks, Bob.
Imogen, so great to have you. Now, I was expecting to have Imogen dial in from New York, where it would have been 9 p.m., but due to the coronavirus, Imogen is back home in sunny Brisbane. Imogen is, ex-Aussie expat, was living in New York and head of machine learning at a startup called Control Global, of which she is also a co-founder. A Brisbane girl at heart, Imogen has worked in Sydney, Singapore, Taipei, and of course the Big Apple. Anywhere else, Imogen? Have I missed anything?
I've been all over Asia when I was living in Singapore, so lots of different countries, I guess.
Indeed. Okay, very cool. Well, I think we'll unpack that a little bit later on. And yes, hoping for Miri to join us, but we'll see. So, skipping ahead, Chelsea, Aussie startup, Hyperana. Tell me what you guys do and which part of the AI space you're in, I guess. I mean, I'm curious because I've heard of the brand. I've seen you guys around for a couple of years. It looks like a fascinating initiative, but I can't say that I really know what you guys do. So let's unpack that for us.
Well, that means I need to work harder on my marketing messaging and product messaging. Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. And good morning, Imogen, and everyone that's on the call. Hyperana is an Aussie-based startup, born and raised. We've been around 4 years, and the goal from the very first day to the goal that we're tackling today is trying to make data and insights accessible to everyone. And we mean everyone. So the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, we want to make insights understood and accessible. So it's more than just a dashboard of lots of information that I have no idea what it actually means, but give me the insights in plain English and allow me to be able to comment and collaborate on those insights with other people.
So is it kind of like a ThoughtSpot kind of a thing? Is it in that?
Definitely in that space. ThoughtSpot, I think their branding is more around search and that Q&A component. Hyperana was definitely on that path of trying to bring natural language to data so that people don't need to speak code, that they speak English so that they could ask a question. However, we've gone really beyond that to go, okay, people don't even know, like when you're in a company, most people don't even know where to start. What question do I even ask of the data? So even if they might say I can ask really dumb questions like, oh, well, it's not a dumb question, how am my sales performing? But beyond that, how do I actually know? How can I get the data and insights to work for me proactively? So a big part of what Anna does is, number one, connect your data to Anna really quickly to make that data ingestion really, really simple. And then the second thing is the anomaly detection and making sure that all of the insights can be surfaced really proactively.
Sounds very interesting. And you were friends with the founder, again, colleagues back in Quantium days?
Yeah, so it goes full circle to yourself, Mark. So yeah, we all met professionally in the Quantium space. None of us worked together. I was on the Woolworths-based account, and helping build at the time a product that was surfacing insights for Woolworths and FMCG, people in consumer packaged goods. I felt that the insights could be made even more accessible, even more simple, even more proactive. And so then coming to Hyperana, I'm still on that mission of trying to make data accessible and understood by everyone.
Indeed,
and it goes back to my UTS days. I used to teach statistics and business statistics there.
Of course. Now, you'll notice Miri's joined us. Miri, welcome. Currently, you're on mute and we don't have any video, so hopefully you'll be able to do a little bit of tweaking and fiddle with that, because we'd love to see you and obviously be able to hear you as well. Imogen, New York how did you get to New York?
It's a bit of a journey, actually. I definitely could never have predicted how I would have ended up in New York. I guess my career in data science and software engineering began when I was about 16. I developed out this indoor positioning app, and it started winning all of these international innovation awards. And actually SAP picked up on what I was doing and offered to sponsor my trip to Taiwan, where I was actually able to showcase my app at the Asia Pacific ICT Alliance Awards competition. And they also offered me a job as a machine learning engineer when I was still in high school within Brisbane. And then my experience within Brisbane led me to Sydney, and then it also led me to an opportunity in Singapore. I had actually developed out this analytics company for the restaurant and entertainment industry when I was 18. And a really good advisor and mentor of mine at the time actually recommended that I go to Asia to evaluate it as a potential market to release my product in. So I just asked SAP if I could also have a job over there as well. But it was really interesting when I was in Singapore. I developed out this augmented reality application, and it actually became the face of innovation at SAP, and I got to showcase it at a bunch of innovation conferences around Asia. And there was this one person at the innovation conference who gave this fascinating keynote presentation about an artificial intelligence company he was building in New York. And I thought, I just have to be a part of this. And thankfully, there was someone within my network who could make that connection, open up that door for me. But I pretty much dropped everything that week, everything that I was working on at SAP, all of my previous companies, and went and joined as a technical co-founder in New York with this artificial intelligence company.
Fantastic. What a story. And there it is right there, the network, right? You knew someone who knew someone, or that the network grew. Now, Miri, welcome. So good to see you. You're still on mute somehow. Just waiting for...
Can you hear me now?
Great. Yes, we can. Perfect. Welcome. So glad you could make it.
Thank you for having me.
So, Miri, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, because I've kind of introduced everybody else and our other guests here. So fire away.
Great. Thank you. So hi, I'm Amir Rodriguez. I am a storyteller at Microsoft, also the author of Brand Storytelling. And
show us your book. Show us your book. Have you got your book?
I do. It's right here. It's right here. And I love this topic because one of the chapters really is dedicated to the future of storytelling. And we do talk a lot about AI, being in tech. And I did a lot of my work within core services engineering at Microsoft. And so I learned a lot of the immersive technology, a lot of the futuristic things that we're doing. And so it really compelled me to write this book, to think about how AI will be thinking for itself. It already is, building those algorithms. And so how important it is that we build these algorithms from the get-go with empathy. And so that is truly what my heart is behind that, is to really think of that human side that we embed into these machines that will soon and that already are making their own decisions. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I so want to drill down on that subject one day, but we might even have to do that on a different podcast. So sure. We might need to have, but the whole ethics in AI and all of that, not having machines make cold, hard decisions that affect people's lives with, the computer says no, end of story. Great. And so you're head of global internships at Microsoft. I guess you get to recruit and mentor some of the brightest minds on the planet.
Yeah, I actually get to host them. Recruiting team does the job of actually going out and seeking them, and we're really lucky today that Microsoft has just positioned itself so well in the industry that it's the recruiting efforts are truly great, but also so many students want to come work with us and for us, and it's just so exciting times. We're also very lucky that despite COVID-19, we've been able to truly still host our interns, and so it's really right now the intern season will start recruiting now for next year. So it's really great times to find sources and talent out there. There's just so much great talent right now.
So how many interns would you have globally at any point in time?
Yeah, so we host around 4,000 to 5,000 every year globally, and out of those, around 3,000 will actually come to HQ to Seattle from all over the world. So around half, a little bit over half, actually we host in-house.
That's incredible. And talking about a network, I guess a lot of them would make connections that you would keep for a lifetime, and they would stay in touch and assist each other with future career paths and so on.
Absolutely. Part of that experience is networking. Part of that experience is meeting other brilliant minds. One of the things that I have experienced myself at Microsoft is being in, the dumbest person in the room. I'm often that because it's just so many great people I've met myself. And so it really is, we've learned to students, part of that huge experience is to come and meet people. A lot of our speaker series, they get to talk to our executives. And so it's really, really fun.
So fantastic. Chelsea, talking about that network, you, just after I think we both finished at Quantium, you moved to Germany for something. How did that happen?
Well, it happened in my personal life because my husband got offered a sabbatical as an academic to spend some time in Germany. He happens also to be German, so that's why we picked the place. I was contracting in Australia and decided, well, this is pre-corona time, but I'm like, I could work anywhere in the world. So I decided to join him for his sabbatical. And then when I was over there, I'm really stubborn and I really like to speak. And it frustrated me that I didn't speak very good German. So I studied a lot. I worked my Australian job at the same time and just studied. And by about 6 months, I'm like, okay, I could stop this contract role. I'm going to start to interview in Germany for only English speaking roles. But I'll start the job interview and I'll end the job interview, the personal stuff in German. And a few months later, I ended up with a job offer. And I was so happy that I came back to Australia to potentially pack up my things to then make the move. But then when I was back in Australia, they pulled the job. This was after 9 rounds of interviews. So I was a bit bummed, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, things happen for a reason. I'm in Australia now. And I thought, I'll just play it forward. I'm just going to offer my services for free because I'm 1 foot in Australia, but I've just spent 9 months interviewing, thinking in German, speaking German. I'm like, God damn it, I'm going to make this work. But then the Hyperana thing happened by me just offering my services for free, me saying to the founders, like, let me help you. I'll just work on your PowerPoint presentations. I'll update your pitch deck. I'll speak to some of your clients if you just need a bum on a seat to help. But then that was 4 years ago and the rest is history.
Now, there's an angle right there, right? So you knew someone who was running a small company, didn't necessarily want or need or be able to afford a full-time marketing person, but you put your hand up and said, hey, I'll just come in and help you out and do something. I mean, right there is a potential, and that's become a full-time job for you now. Is that right?
Yeah. We had the conversation, and I saw her on the bus, but I knew that I was going to call her up and say, hey, I'm going to help. I'm offering to help, but I literally mean it. I'm happy to just work on your PowerPoint presentations. I need to spend maybe 5-10 hours a week on my calls to Germany to maybe salvage this job or find other opportunities. But I was super transparent. And the only thing that I wanted in return was that flexibility. But I didn't realize that they were looking at their tree structure. I didn't realize that this company was seeking funding, that they would have paid customers. I knew none of that. I just offered free PowerPoint work.
No, that's fantastic. And I love that story because, I mean, that just offering to help can open so many doors, right? Imogen, SAP, I mean, what a network you would have right there, I guess, similar to the interns at Microsoft that we were talking about earlier. Has that helped you? And how do you take advantage of, some of that serendipitous connections? I mean, I've got some LinkedIn stories that I'll unpack a little bit later, but I'm curious to hear how you've exploited that network.
Yeah, well, I guess with SAP, I always felt it was a stepping stone to achieve what it is that I always wanted to achieve. But I always had this idea that you don't necessarily know how you're going to get there. You just have to know what it is that you want and be ever ready to take up opportunities when they come. And what I also realized is that if you start to associate yourself with people that you really want to be like, that are highly self-motivated, interesting, accomplished, that really inspire you, then you will start to find that you grow in that direction as well. So I guess when I was working at SAP, and even just being a typical Brisbane guy, I never had that network at my disposal to really to be able to run a startup in the US just off the bat. So it took a lot of time and a lot of patience to really find the right people to grow that authentic, real network where people could start to open up doors for me.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I'll put this out to all of you. LinkedIn as a platform, right, seems to be so powerful. I mean, my connection with Miri is 100% only on LinkedIn. We just found each other.
Yeah.
Imogen, similar. We've not actually worked together. And I think it's just the other day, actually, I worked with a project manager when I was at NBN who was from Peru. And then I bumped into somebody on LinkedIn who's actually living in Peru, but she's a data scientist. And she was interested in, Australia and stuff. So I just connected these two ladies together. Miri, you've got some connection to Peru, am I right?
Yeah, for me, it's so funny. It's actually one of my favorite platforms. It became that for me because the connections are so real. And I found that the network is so engaging. I mean, I never imagined I could grow an audience on LinkedIn the way that I have. And it really has been a blessing. And I've met incredible people like you, Mark, and true people that I have truly honed into building relationships and have found lots of opportunities. I can say today that none of my speaking engagements I've made because I have actually sought after them. It's been all LinkedIn. All of it has been LinkedIn. So I started speaking publicly over 5 years ago, and each one of those connections were made on LinkedIn. So it's an incredible platform. It is a huge amplification platform for voices, especially for women. When I speak to women around their personal brand and their digital presence, I tell them to please get on LinkedIn because the power of that network is real. And I have found incredible people like you.
No, that's fantastic. Chelsea, Imogen, experiences with networking over LinkedIn. Have you got clues for people who want to tap into this? How do you go about it in a tactful and sensitive way that doesn't just mean that you're spamming a whole bunch of random people?
Oh my gosh, I found some incredible people on LinkedIn, especially when I moved back to Brisbane after being in New York. I felt like I really missed that network that I had around me in the US. So I had to start from the beginning again in March when I moved back when the pandemic started. And there was just one person who introduced me to one other person via LinkedIn. I never asked for the introduction, but then that just grew and grew and grew and grew. And now all of a sudden, there's all of these job opportunities that I could take up if I needed to. So I think it's through that network that you grow over time and authentically with people that you really enjoy, sitting down and having a coffee with and having a deeper, meaningful conversation about the industry that you work in. They're the people that you want to invite into your circle. And LinkedIn's definitely a very good place to start.
Indeed. And have you ever struck up like a Zoom coffee with someone that you just happen to connect with on LinkedIn first?
Oh, of course, I definitely have done that. Yeah, I met this wonderful lady in London. It was in data science, and yeah, we just met over LinkedIn and had a coffee together. It's really fantastic.
That's incredible. Okay, there's the clue right there. If you take away one thing from today, That's it right there. Jump on LinkedIn, find people that you want to be like, and then hit them up for a virtual coffee. I want to be like Miri. Seriously, I want to be the author of a book. I've got a book coming out later in the year on data governance. It's not as exciting as brand storytelling, but speaker, storyteller, all those kind of things. So yeah, I want to be like Miri. So I connected with Miri. We'll have a coffee later on too, and we'll get you back to talk about AI and ethics and so on. I think that'll be maybe in two.
I'm excited for that talk. I have to say, Mark, when I was writing the book, I actually leveraged LinkedIn to do a lot of research. I went on and connected with people I thought would never accept my connection. I literally said, I have one question to ask you, a mini interview. And I got so many responses. All of them responded, every one of them. Not one person ignored me. And I thought that was so powerful. So one key takeaway also for people listening and watching, dare to connect, dare to ask a question, dare to find that opportunity authentically, and you'll see how many people will respond. A lot of us just want to help others, and so you'll find more yeses than no. I found, and it's really a magical place to be. As long as you're also not so selfish, you're also willing to offer something back. So when you say let's have coffee, typically it's I'm giving you the gift of, I'm asking for the gift of your time. I mean, I'm giving you something back with that. So be willing also to offer something back so it doesn't feel too one-sided.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there was another story I wanted to ask you, Miri, because it all sounds like, you know, a wonderful, successful thing. But there was a time when you were stuck in, now the best I can remember the story, in a strange country, married, 2 kids, no job, wondering where the rent's going to come from, wondering where your next meal's going to come from. And then, I don't know, which God did you pray to and what happened?
I'm trying to think of it. Did I post that on LinkedIn? I don't know how many stories I posted.
Yes, you did.
I have to think of when this was. I travel a lot. Because there's a couple of stories. One is when I was in Venezuela. So that was when I actually lived there. That's where I'm from. And I lived in the slums. So absolutely, it was something that I never imagined I would ever come to the US and have the life and live the life that I do today. So that was definitely something that I've shared before a lot on LinkedIn. I have traveled a lot as well. And I found a lot of different adventures that I do share. So now you have me thinking of which one. Is this a trick question?
Okay, no, it struck me that I mean, I've got some friends right now who are either working very hard in their startup and trying to get something off the ground, or you know, they've been slapped around. I mean, I was so fortunate that I was let go in April from working for, it was February actually, working for a larger startup, Data Robot. And so I just posted on LinkedIn and say, guys, this is what's happened. If you need someone who knows data, let me know. And then an ex-colleague, a friend of mine, John Good, hit me up and told me about what he was doing. And within a month, we were on board. So again, the LinkedIn
I remember
network.
now. I actually posted that in 2019. It was the end of the year, 2019, as we're heading to 2020. And I posted that as a kind of pumping everybody up to get into 2020 and start your new year, not knowing what was going to happen in 2020. But it was about 10 years before that when I found myself, bankrupt, on the brink of a divorce. I had lost my job for the first time, for the only time in my life. And it was Motorola was the company I was working for. And I was working in the mobile devices division. I didn't say this whole thing in the story, but this is a little more detail. And of course, the iPhone came out. So it put us all out of business on the mobile devices side. And so we were lost. I was lost. I was lost on many levels of my life. And I actually found someone on LinkedIn who was a placing company, and he believed in me. He literally took a chance on me and placed me in another tech company as a contractor. I got converted a few months later, maybe 5 months later, and the rest is history. So it's funny. I didn't mention this person on LinkedIn, but as soon as I posted that post, he connected with me. He goes, I had no idea what you were going through personally, but I met you and I knew that I needed to take a chance on you. So it was really it came back full circle 10 years later. My message for that post was, start now. It's start now, and in the future, it's gonna happen. It's not built immediately, but you have to make decisions now for your future. So.
Absolutely. Chelsea, Imogen, any thoughts on that? And then I'll pivot to the next
I totally relate to that. You can see with my doctor and my title, I was a full-fledged academic. That was my path. What are we now, 2020? So I finished my PhD 2010. And
congratulations.
Again, thank you. So 2011, 12, 13, I was like full on at UTS. I was developing my courses. I was, working on my research. And then I just woke up overnight with this thought that I have to leave academia. There were just all these signals that it was like a bad romance. Like I loved it more than it loved me. And I remember thinking, how am I going to do this? And being quite risk averse. I still had 18 months on a contract. So I'm like, if I can't find a job in 18 months, then no one can find a job.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. And I remember going, okay, how do I do this? I'm going to hustle. I'm going to put like 10 hours a week and I'm going to try and find mission, 18 months, find a job. And I started with LinkedIn and I didn't know where to start.
Does anybody get the impression that Chelsea's like a high achiever?
Pretty much.
Very, very, very focused. But it was exactly like what Miri said. There was one recruitment company and one person in particular that just like understood my pitch, saw my enthusiasm, like knew, because I just remember thinking like, especially in Australia, people were going to say you're overeducated, you've got no commercial experience, or like, what have you been doing the last decade? How is any of this relevant? And like, again, I was in consumer decision making, fully fledged researcher, had worked in market research and media before, and knew how to analyze data and write and present. And I was teaching to thousands of students and I was the best lecturer, but I was like, still, I wore that insecurity internally. People didn't see it, but I'm like, shit, how am I going to make this happen? I know no one on LinkedIn. But this one guy took a chance on me and he sold me or positioned me to Quantium, and then the rest was history. And my advice for anyone making that pivot, like for me, consulting was like the best way that I could meet smart people. But consulting specifically for me, like data and analytics, was very congruent. I understood the clients and the problem, but I had very little commercial acumen. I knew I could speak the language, but I needed those credentials. So then pivoting to tech a few years later has been natural. But again, like I do think of that one person that like just saw the potential in me and hustled a little for me. And again, I did all the hustling myself too. I had to bring it. But that one person makes a difference.
That's cool. Now, actually, you've provided the perfect segue into my next question, which was probably more towards Imogen and perhaps Miri. I get the impression that in the Australian market, as you've said, Chelsea, people will have a much higher regard for real-world experience than for just pure academic qualifications, whereas in the US, perhaps not as much. Imogen, any thoughts? What are your observations?
So my observations are more centered around Asia. I feel like in Asia, it's really important still to have a formal education within the industry that you're trying to find
have the masters, have the PhD.
Yeah, especially in Asia, more than the US and more than Australia. Mainly because this ticks a minimum box to get you in the door, and it displays to employers that you have a discipline to learn, consistency of completion over time. But what I found is that qualifications obviously don't make you a fantastic data scientist, in my opinion. They won't guarantee that you're going to be better at your job than the next candidate. And I think that more progressive organizations around the world, such as Google, are starting to recognize this a lot more. Look, I don't have a degree. I don't have formal qualifications. I dropped out of uni pretty early and just taught myself how to code. I did this by enrolling myself into a bunch of online courses with like Harvard University and MIT. I just felt I needed a way to rapidly acquire new knowledge and skills to address the opportunities that I had at hand right at that time. I think formal education really couldn't provide this for me. But beyond qualifications, obviously is what is much, much more important is just being able to adopt this lifelong learners kind of mentality and being able to demonstrate that to employers. So at least in my hiring experience, I find that a portfolio of real world projects and products that the candidate has made a significant contribution to is much more indicative of their capabilities than years of formal schooling. But as I mentioned, in Asia, sometimes you just have to tick that box.
Yeah, but I think you've nailed it. So this has got to be takeaway number 2 from the podcast today is there are so many online courses available in analytics, in all kinds of different aspects of data science. Be a lifelong learner, sign up, get yourself involved, get some qualifications, even if they're, Udemy courses or free courses. What's the best around? I mean, I should be asking Danny Ma this question. He's the guru on this kind of thing. Okay, so everybody out there, here's a clue. Find Danny Ma on LinkedIn and connect with that guy because he spits out freebies all the time. He's, promoting free courses online in analytics and data science. If this is your space and you want to jump on some free courses, find Danny Ma, follow Danny Ma, and he'll help you find some of the things that you want to be involved in. Let me think. Miri, you've got a counterpart in Singapore. You've got perhaps a counterpart in Australia, Sydney-based maybe. How would someone reach out to Microsoft, to the internship program if they were interested?
Yeah, actually, we have a huge area of interns that we actually hire in India. So for Asia, India also, and New Zealand, Australia. So we do have hubs there. And we are basically partitioned by region. So this would be Asia region. We have a group that grew exponentially in the last year. I mean, we went from, it was kind of a hush-hush internal recruiting group at Microsoft, LinkedIn group. It's called University Recruiting. And it went from like 3,000 members. It's over 24, I believe now. And it's really funny because it's now become this hub of candidates, post interns, also competitors, and we have all of our recruiting team there. So the best way, and I always, I'm careful to mention this because I don't want people to go in and be like, oh my gosh, I can connect directly with the recruiter, but our recruiting team is there from India, from different parts of Asia. And so you can come in and ask a question there, and one of our recruiters will help you answer. We also give a lot of proactive content on the how-tos, how to nail the interview. There are different types of interview internship offers for tech interviews within the different zones that we have in different regions or geos. So it's there's a lot of questions to be answered there. We have a lot of FAQs. So the best ways to connect with us there. You'll talk to one of our recruiters somewhere in one of the regions. If not, we'll be able to triage that conversation, make sure that you get your question answered to the best of our knowledge.
Fantastic. No, that's great. I think I'm gonna, conscious of time, wrap up shortly, but I'm hearing 3 takeaways today. So one is just reach out to people and network, especially on LinkedIn. It is a magical place to network. Offer to help, but you'll find more people willing to help you as well. Second one from Imogen, find those free courses and sign up and get involved, and reach out to Danny Ma if you're in Australia particularly. He'll help you find the best online courses in analytics and data science. And then the third one, I think more from Miri, was I think was it who was that actor? Said 90% of success is just showing up.
Just show up.
So just bring your A game. Chelsea said that. Show up. Any final thoughts and comments, and then I'll wrap up by introducing our whiskey for the day.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. I came late, so I guess I'll leave early. Final thoughts are relationships are everything, and we have to treat them as such. When someone gives you their time, when someone gives you a response to an inbox, treat that as a gift. It is not deserved. It is not something anybody owes you. I'm really, really careful with my relationships. And I believe my success is driven by those people who have stood with me and have shared platforms, have given me opportunities. I would not be here if it weren't for those people. Success is a team sport. So be careful in the way that you reach out to people and how you take advantage of those opportunities. If someone gives you one, Chelsea and I have a similar story, but we're also here because we took that opportunity. We did something with that. And a lot of people just will take the opportunity as something that is owed to them or as an entitlement. And that's when it doesn't work. So be careful. It's a mindset, and treat every relationship as a gift.
Awesome. Thank you. Imogen.
That's lovely. I would just say that I really liked how this conversation focused around building networks and leveraging networks, because I feel that, building real, authentic networks, in my opinion, is probably one of the most underrepresented and overlooked skills that people within data science and IT tend to have. But the reality is, at least from my experience, the deeper and wider that your network is, the easier you'll come across new opportunities and the simpler that your career progression will be. So I feel like everybody should invest more effort and time into building an authentic, real network that they can leverage.
Sounds great. Chelsea.
A friend of mine always said there's the word work in network. And it's always resonated to me that you have to actually do something in order to grow your network. I don't like the stereotype that comes with networking, especially if you're a little bit of an introvert. It feels icky, it feels uncomfortable, but I think that that's actually like a good thing. And especially like when we're all at home right now, we might be trying to find jobs, we might be really uncomfortable, we're pursuing. Learning and pursuing excellence is actually like really uncomfortable a lot of the time. It's not just about like, you can get a false sense of security if you're just ticking this box, doing this course and thinking that life is just like linear. And actually it's not. And the best things are always around the corner. And it doesn't feel like that when you're like head deep in a textbook. Like Miri might have drafts and drafts, or Mark's book on data governance, that like it might just look like a hot mess. Like you're thinking like, well, what this is like, does the world care? Actually like that's the moment of learning, that discomfort. And that's where your next story is going to come. And I think if you just focus authentically on what you're trying to solve for me, 10 years ago, it was my PhD, and thinking like, no one's going to employ me. I'm living on like peanuts here. But like just trying to get it done, that was going to be the story that I could tell, and that people were going to see, okay, there are valid skills and learnings that come with all of that. So my advice, keep hustling, stay authentic, stay focused. It's uncomfortable. And don't think that there's no like quick fix. Just do this course and all of a sudden someone owes you a job. It doesn't work like that.
Brilliant. No, I've loved the comments. I've loved the discussion. I've loved the thoughts here. I think it's been a fantastic half an hour. Wrapping up, our whiskey for the week is Connemara. This is actually an Irish whiskey, not a Scotch. But I first came across this whiskey. By the way, if you're part of a 12-point program, don't be tempted to fall off the wagon. That's not the purpose of what we're doing here today.
I'm not. I'm good.
Okay. There's a duty-free outlet at Singapore Airport, which also happens to have a whiskey tasting bar, and that's where I came across somebody was serving this fella. Back then it was in a blue container. Now it's in a green one, I think, because they want to distinguish the fact that they're Irish, right? But this is a kick in the head. This is one of the most peaty whiskey you're ever going to find. I put it up there with the Lafroig. To me, Lafroig is probably the king of whiskies. It's also very, very heavy. This is quite light, so I call this the queen of whiskies. So that's Connemara today.
You're just making us jealous. You're not sharing.
And get this,
you're the only one who drinks. What's going on?
Yes. Send some here, please.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you've got to come and meet me in Sydney, and we'll have a whiskey day at my place or something. Chelsea, you can just jump on a motorbike and pop over.
Oh, I could, but I'll stick to my coffee. 10 in the morning.
Okay, it's been a fantastic morning. I've really appreciated your time. Thank you, Miri, especially for dialing in at 5 p.m. Monday night. Thank you, Imogen, for joining us. Thank you, Chelsea. I think it's a wrap. And what were the 3 takeaways? Take initiative, reach out, network. People are there. They will help you. They are on your side. Don't be afraid to ask. Find the free courses that you can do. Invest in yourself. Give it your A game. And then 90% of success is just turning up.
Show up. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate your time. Love you guys so much. I can't wait till this whole Corona thing's over. We're going to catch up somewhere. I got to go to Australia. I'm aching for it already. You've got to come. I'd love to. We'd love to host you, actually, and your family. It'd be fantastic. Thank you. I love Australia. I can't wait to go back. Awesome. Thanks, Chelsea. Thanks, Imogen. We'll see you guys. So much, Thanks, everyone. Bye.